The gate guard put his hand up like a wall. "I don't care what your orders say," he said, loud enough for the whole checkpoint to hear. "You're not coming in dressed like that." Behind him, soldiers turned to watch, and Staff Sergeant Maya Reyes stood there in the morning heat, holding a deployment order that had just been called worthless in front of 40 strangers. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. She'd flown 18 hours to get here. 2 layovers, no sleep, a uniform creased from being folded into a duffel bag too many times. She'd told herself the hard part was behind her, the training, the goodbyes, the long nights wondering if she was good enough for this assignment. She hadn't expected the hard part to be the front gate. "Sergeant Reyes," she said again, holding out her ID with a hand that wanted to shake but didn't. "Engineering Corps. I'm assigned here." The guard barely looked at it. "We don't have a record of a female engineer on this rotation." He said it flatly, like a fact, like weather. Behind him, a line of soldiers had started to gather. Some curious, some smirking, one young private looking like he wanted to disappear into the dirt rather than watch this happen. Maya felt the heat crawl up her neck. Not from the sun. From the particular humiliation of being disbelieved in public, of having her entire career reduced to a guess about what she must be instead of who she actually was. She thought about turning around. She thought about every base she'd ever walked onto where she'd had to prove herself twice as hard, twice as fast, just to stand still. She thought she'd have to fight this fight alone again. She was wrong. Dust kicked up behind a fast-moving Jeep before anyone heard the engine. It skidded to a stop at the checkpoint, and the door opened before it had even fully stopped rolling. Base Commander Colonel Hal Whitfield stepped out, and the entire courtyard went silent the way a room does when something real is about to happen. He didn't look at the guard first. He looked at Maya. "Sergeant Reyes," he said, and something in his voice cracked the tension wide open. "I've been waiting on you for 3 weeks. We have a bridge collapsed 60 miles north and a base full of engineers who can't solve what you can." Then he turned to the guard, and his voice dropped into something colder. "Who told you to question her orders?" The guard opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "She built the reinforcement system that saved 26 soldiers during the Kandahar flooding," Whitfield said, loud enough for everyone gathered to hear. "She is the reason men in this unit are alive to stand at this gate today. Open it." The silence broke into something else, not applause exactly, but a current running through the crowd, soldiers glancing at each other, recalculating everything they thought they knew. The private who'd looked away earlier now looked straight at Maya, something like respect dawning on his face. And here's where it gets complicated. Because the guard wasn't a villain. He was a man following a flawed assumption that had never been challenged, never had to be, until this morning. He'd simply never imagined competence could look like her. That's the quiet tragedy underneath stories like this one. It's rarely cruelty that keeps good people out. It's the absence of imagination. Maya walked through that gate with her shoulders square, her duffel bag heavy, her future finally catching up to her name. By nightfall, she'd already drawn the first blueprint for the bridge. Because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits, and it finds its way back, sometimes in a Jeep kicking up dust at exactly the right moment. She'd come through 18 hours of travel and one closed gate to find that someone, somewhere, had already seen her clearly all along. If this story moved you, tell us where you're watching from, hit subscribe, and stay, because the next story might just be the one that changes how you see someone walking through your own front gate.